Hello, welcome one and all. Oh, let me just turn myself down because it's a bit disconcerting. Listen to yourself. Welcome to the premiere edition of Not the Early Bird live show. It's not early and there's no birds in it. So, yeah, that's the reason for the name. It's not, I cannot either deny or claim that it's associated with any other show of a similar name. So, yeah, whatever. So I'm your host, M2M or Matt. I'm neither an early bird, neither a night owl. I'm some sort of form of permanently exhausted pigeon. So yeah, that's me. So if you can let me know in the chat if you can hear me and if the audio is all good, that would be good. Even if you just put a 1 in the chat, that'd be good if I'm nice and clear, because that's what we want, because I'm going to be mostly talking. Well, no, not really. Not all me talking. So can you let me know in the chat if it's all good? All sounds good. Cinema Control, thank you very much. Hey, George. All good? Good. Okay, well, who we got? We have got Cinema Control. We've not met before. Hello, thank you very much and welcome. George Haynes, Michael Ferguson just dropped in. Thank you very much for coming. And I think that's all we got just at the moment. And there's more listening. There was Commander 401, fellow shill. Thank you very much for coming. And yes, this is the premiere of this show, not the Early Bird Live show. So this is going to be a weekly show, and it's going to be about stuff that, you know, pretty much my channel is related to, and it's about space and space travel and things like that. Today, we are going to look at a debate between Kyle Adams and TJump on modern day debates, and there was a debate about the moon landings. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. In future, I want to include other things as well. I'm thinking maybe do like a quick kind of like news report kind of thing about, you know, stuff that's happened in the world of, well, rockets and space travel, and maybe a bit of astronomy as well, and, you know, discoveries that James Webb or whoever might have discovered and things like that. You know, stuff that's going on with SpaceX, because there's some pretty exciting stuff coming up with that as well. So I thought maybe I might do that in the future. And also I thought I might do a little segment as well if I find a stupid meme related to the sort of stuff that I do as well. So I don't know. Let me know what you think, and if you've got any other any ideas yourselves, then please drop me a line. I've also got a Discord channel. I haven't actually put that in the description, I don't think, which I will do. I'll get that sorted out while we're doing the show shortly. Super chats are great. However, if you're enjoying the show, there is a link at the top of the chat, which has been pinned, and also in the description to PayPal. PayPal's a lot better. They take a little less commission. And I've got easier control with PayPal as well. Doing this really is a hobby for me, but it does have certain costs. And they sometimes can sort of build up a little bit occasionally, subscriptions and things like that. So if you join the show, please think about clicking on the link and donating whatever you can feel is worth, or whatever you can afford. That would be really great. And if you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button, punch the bell icon. Punch? Did I just say that? click on the bell icon and click on all, and you'll be notified when I either go live or upload some more videos. So yeah, that's me. So without further ado, let's switch over to the correct set. Here we go. And as we can see, it is modern day debates. And as I said, it's between TJump and Kyle Adams. Now, Kyle Adams, I'm kind of reserving judgment about him at the moment. I really haven't seen him very much. Mr. Sensible's done a few things, I think, on him before, and I think he's had him on the show. MC2, and I think might have done as well at some point. I'm not entirely sure. Can't remember off the top of my head. But other than that, I haven't really seen much of him. So I don't mind actually calling some people idiots if they're idiots, if they act like idiots, especially. So there's a moment in time I'm reserving judgment. I mean, he seems quite a nice guy, but, you know, who knows? So as long as he doesn't behave like an idiot, then I won't call him an idiot. Thank you, Michelle Ferguson. Thank you very much. Hello, how are you? So, yeah, without further ado, let's just get straight into it. I've skipped the intro because I don't want to be clobbered for music, and you'll get straight into the introduction of the actual show itself and the two parties involved. Okay, so let's let me know in the chat if you can hear it, okay? That'd be good.
Hey everybody, tonight we're debating whether or not the moon landing was a hoax, and we are starting right now with Kyle's opening statement. Thanks so much for being with us, Kyle. The floor is all yours.
Fantastic.
Could you hear that in the chat, okay? Let me know if you could hear the actual video. That'd be useful, because it seemed pretty quiet for me for some reason. Did you hear that? Let me know if you can. Don't really know why it's so quiet for me. You heard it and it was nice and loud and clear, was it? Yeah, for some reason it's very, very quiet for me, and I'll figure out why in a minute. Oh, it was probably because I got it turned right down. Oh, here we go. Yeah, there we go. That would be the reason. School bay error. Okay, let's have a listen.
Good to be here. Let's get this going.
Oh, so Kyle's going straight in with a video. I have actually seen the intros, but the rest of this debate I haven't. I'm going relatively blind. So yeah, he goes straight in with the video, and you'll see what it's about in a second.
Yeah, you're crazy.
No, actually, I just said objectively what the study of natural science is, and that's the only thing relevant to this entire discussion, because you're making
engineering, all that's natural science.
Okay, natural physical science is the only thing relevant to this conversation because you're making physical claims. We have an agreed upon parameters. We have a verification method. It's called the scientific method in natural physical science. And I've explained objectively what it is. And you've argued about the interpretation, saying that you could never, ever prove a cause. And I'm sure you're under the philosophy that you could never prove any.
So what Carl's actually going straight in with is really attacking TJump with his interpretation of science by using Witzit's debate with him. Really, what that has got to do with the moon landings, I really don't know. So what Carl actually is doing is really just discrediting TJump immediately, right from the word go. That's what he's attempting to do. But it does kind of backfire him, I think, a little bit later on, as you'll see. But I think, to be honest with you, that's a little bit unfair, to be fair, Kyle. You know, so come on, stick to the subject matter.
Science doesn't prove things, and that's a scapegoat, right? It's a scapegoat.
What?
So then by deduction, there is no scientific proof of the globe model.
Please. There's no scientific proof of anything. We could all just be in a brain.
Wait, can you just answer directly though? So that would mean by deduction, there's no scientific proof of the globe Earth model.
There's no scientific proof of anything. Science doesn't prove anything.
Okay, yeah, we get it. That's the talking point now.
Yeah, so that's what Carl's actually getting him to, so everybody can see that TJump actually says that science doesn't prove anything. I'm going to disagree with that a little bit. I think, for me, what science actually does is it doesn't prove anything of it as itself, but what it does, it provides enough evidence to determine whether something is true or not on a ratio of whatever you might want it to be. That's kind of how I look at science. So, not entirely agreeable with it, but I see where he's coming from.
is because y'all don't have any proof. But
wait, why do you think that's a scapegoat? Like, could we not be in a brain in the vat? Is that physically, like,
can we get something relevant to the
impossible?
topic, please?
It's very relevant to the topic. This is brain in a vat.
Yeah, so TJump's complaining now, and I don't blame him. Actually, he said, "Can what can we have something related to the topic?" And it's not. So I think TJump's got every right to say at this point, why is he doing this?
We're in the matrix. Like, so everything we're seeing is just a delusion of some kind. Like, that's possible, right?
So, yeah, science never proves anything. That's a fact.
Which is really essential when it comes to the moon.
No, I understand the word theory very well.
So I don't want to get clips of my old videos. Can we actually get something
just like
related
germs
to the
can
topic,
be
James?
But not all
Hold on,
theories
one
can
second.
be
Fair.
true.
The rest from Tom. Theoretically,
so the
if-
only point
can
you're
you do me
making
a
here is
favor
that
and pause the
saying
video,
that
Kyle?
because it's
Yeah.
I don't want to hear clips from my old
Hold on a
videos. I
second.
want something relevant to the
I know.
topic,
But
if possible.
To be fair, if he is theoretically burning up his own time by doing things that are irrelevant, it's not for me, the
It's my
moderator,
time, isn't it?
to stop him from setting himself on fire. Like, theoretically, if he is currently setting himself on fire, like, I don't want to take your side, Tom, by stopping him from stepping in it.
No,
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, I think he should be stopped because, I mean, the whole idea is you're supposed to do a presentation, and the only thing, he's not really presenting anything. He's not presenting any evidence. Farmer's Boy, exactly. What has this got to do with the moon landings? And it hasn't. So, he's just attacking TJump immediately without providing any kind of evidence or presentation of anything related to what they're supposed to be debating at all. So, I think maybe I ought to sort of say, yeah, Kyle Adams, you're an idiot. Sorry, but that's just unfair to do that. Let's carry on.
I want
I have
him
to
to.
say
I don't
that.
want to have to address a whole bunch of
I
things
do
that
have
aren't
to, I
related
have
to
to
the
give
debate.
him, Tom, I have to give him the rest of it for his opening.
No, because this is just
and
straw
then-
manning my position. I don't want to have to
On Medabase says, sorry, welcome, Farmers Boy. Thanks for coming, dude. Thank you.
address
I hate
other
to do
things I've
this,
said
but-
out of context.
Tom, I have to give it to him, even if you want to point out later how he just lit himself on fire by wasting his opening.
This is a
All right, go ahead, Kyle.
okay.
it's a theory, it is therefore unproven, is wrong. Many theories are proven.
Yeah, exactly what Farmers Boy. You might as well play a music video. And I know exactly what Farmers Boy is referring to. Tell you a little story. It was Bev came on to going to have a little debate. Was supposed to have a little debate with Chike on Blue Marble Science's channel via Discord, and he came on, and his opening presentation, was a music video that had absolutely no relation to what they were talking about at all. And Blue Marble wasn't happy about it, and rightfully so. So yeah, that's what he's referring to. So you might as well have done that. Yeah, right enough.
So you're confused about the word theory. It doesn't mean unproven.
And many theories can't be proven. So that doesn't mean all theories are provable. Do you see what I'm saying? There's many theories that can't be
I
proven.
didn't say all.
So I'm not saying, but you're trying to err on the side that I'm saying all theories are provable. I'm saying that it's 50-50. Yeah, I'm saying because it's a theory, it's not provable. You know what I mean?
That's
that
the
doesn't mean
part-
some theories.
that's
That doesn't
the
mean
part
some
I'm
theories aren't
objecting to.
accurate. I'm saying that doesn't mean that all theories are inaccurate.
No, the part I'm objecting to is you define the word theory to mean uncertain. That's not what the word theory means.
Yeah, exactly. There's a general confusion as to what a theory is, especially amongst flirts, and what exactly what a theory is. A theory can be proven. A theory can be proven by mathematics. So they think that a theory could very well be wrong. Well, I suppose it could be, but not necessarily. So yeah, he's absolutely right.
All right, here's a peer-reviewed journal article written by a teacher of the teachers in the Journal of College Science Teaching. And it says, a gentle reminder that a hypothesis is never proven correct, nor is a theory ever proven to be true. In other words, it is saying science never proves anything.
You see how Kyle is actually trying to define the narrative for this debate already. He's really talking about nothing about the moon landings at all in his presentation. Personally, I don't think it should be allowed, to be honest with you. But that's modern day debates. They don't always go by what the general consensus of what a debate should be, or necessarily. But this all backfires on Kyle anyway. I'm pretty sure. So.
And it goes so far as to say words like prove, correct, and true should be removed from our vocabulary completely and immediately. And it isn't just an isolated statement, but Forbes magazine over there calls scientific proof a myth. And Scientific American says, if you say science is right, you're wrong. It is very much a myth.
Well, here's the thing about science, and I've always said this, is that science evolves. Science doesn't always say that it's right. Science doesn't sort of say this is what it is and it's always going to be. That's not how it works. That's not how science works. Science is quite happy to be proven wrong. In fact, scientists spend a lot of time, especially during the peer review process, is that people are looking to actually prove them wrong. And when scientists are doing their own experiments and their own research, they are also trying to prove themselves wrong about a hypothesis that they might have. So that's what they're constantly doing. So the whole process, from the scientists doing what they do through the whole peer review process, is all about proving it wrong. So Carl's again confused, and he's got it completely wrong, and his idea of what science is just skewed.
Mainstream belief these days. So, if you choose to agree with mainstream doctrine, you are going to have to admit that there is no scientific proof that we landed on the moon whatsoever. Yeah, you can claim that you have evidence for the moon landing, but you have to acknowledge that it is non-convicting evidence. In all, you're going to have to acknowledge that your belief in the moon landing is nothing more than faith, as in a confidence or trust in NASA and those who partner with them, and that it is a belief that is not based on proof. Yeah, you could say that you have evidence, but that kind of evidence is not the same thing as proof, which is why I referred to it as non-convicting evidence. You could say that this picture is evidence that the moon...
Well, nobody said that theory is proof, and nobody said that evidence is proof. But what you can have evidences that gives you enough idea of something to be true. That's how I kind of look at it. Like with me, with my interest in the moon landings, and I'm quite happy that I've got enough evidence and quality of evidence for me to form an opinion that the moon landings were true. I'm 99.9% sure that the moon landings happened. So there's sufficient, and I've never seen a sufficient evidence or quality or quantity of evidence to suggest that the moon landings were faked, as they're trying to debate here.
Landing might have happened, but you have to acknowledge that it, along with the other moon footage, might have been staged using practical effects. So long as you claim science never proves anything, all of your arguments will boil down to, we should trust NASA because of X, Y, and Z. And if I wanted to play that game, I could represent the opposing view and say, we should not trust NASA because of X, Y, and Z. For example, I could point to Cindy Holland, who is a former NASA employee who testifies that we did not go to the moon. I could also point to Mike Helmick, who is another former NASA employee who says the same thing.
I've heard of those people. Oh, by the way, I hope Robert Baker, you said I was a little bit low. Do I sound a little bit louder? Am I a little bit better? Can you all hear me okay? Yeah. Reflectors, moon rock samples, photos of landing. Yep, you can hear me okay. Okay, good. That's all right. That's fine. 100%. That's all right. I'll just turn myself up a little bit. So let's carry on. Yeah, so those people claimed that they were NASA employees. None of them actually proved that they were NASA employees.
I could also point to Gus Grissom, who I know Alex Stein mentioned to you before. Gus Grissom was the Apollo 1 astronaut who famously hung the lemon on the command module, after which he was killed by being locked inside and burned alive.
Yeah, This thing about Gus Grissom and the hanging the lemon in the Apollo land, the lunar lander, and him being killed. There's absolutely no evidence whether they're related. You see, Gus Grissom, that's the kind of person that he was. The lunar lander was a brand new spacecraft, and they had a lot of problems. And he felt that they were not getting through the problems quick enough and effectively enough. And actually, he was right. And unfortunately, he paid with his life for that mistake. But he's going to go on again because, as I said, Michael, that guy, Mike, whatever his name is, I can't remember his name. Brought that up when his debate with MC Toon that didn't last very long, and he brought up this Gus Grissom. There's absolutely no evidence whatsoever that Gus Grissom was killed intentionally. Absolutely none. And they keep saying that, oh, do your own research, have a look, it's there, and all the rest of it. But when you do your own research and you look into it, there really is no evidence to prove that he was deliberately killed. Absolutely none. And the two related to him dying and the lemon in the lunar module simulator, I should say. It was actually in the simulator, not the lunar module itself. Were absolutely no related whatsoever.
After deep investigation on the matter, Grissom survived.
Okay.
Do you remember when at the beginning when I asked if you, instead of it being a recording of you doing your opening, you do your opening live?
Okay. I can.
What you could do is if you muted your computer, like on the YouTube video.
Yeah, now he's stepping in. Is he going to play a video through his whole presentation? No, come on, you need to talk. Absolutely, but should have stepped in earlier.
There and then spoke through, as we want our guests to be doing their opening speeches live, just like the open dialogue.
Okay, so essentially what I'm saying here is when it comes to evidence that the moon landing did not happen, I could point to Gus Grissom, I can point to Cindy Holland and the other NASA whistleblowers, and then I can also point to Kathy O'Brien.
Oh, Kathy O'Brien, the conspiracy theorist. Yeah. More about her in a minute.
Who was a MK Ultra survivor, and Kathy O'Brien said that the MK Ultra experiments both took place at the NASA headquarters, and
MK Ultra was supposedly a mind control program run by the CIA. There is some evidence that did exist. I'm not going to deny that. Okay, I mean, I'm sure there probably was, but the claim is that NASA were involved in it. But again, there was absolutely no evidence. And this Kathy O'Brien claims that she worked for the CIA and was involved in the MK Ultra program, and she herself was experimented on, right? And but she's never provided any evidence that she was, never provided any evidence whatsoever that NASA was involved in it. None. But they still keep peddling this stuff. So, it's just typical that some nut job can go on the internet, just say whatever they want, and people like Kyle will just take it in and brainwashed by it. I'm sorry, but Kyle, but that's what you are. And a lot of guys like you are all brainwashed because somebody like that puts it on the internet.
Were conducted by NASA themselves. So that was really convicting evidence for me, but I'm not here to just...
Convicting evidence. Right, you just believed what somebody said on the internet without any evidence whatsoever. Yeah, right.
Say, okay, well, you've got all this evidence that says that the moon landing didn't happen, and I've got all this evidence saying that the moon landing didn't happen. I'd rather focus on...
Well, I think you got a bit confused then. I've got all this evidence. You've got all this evidence that the moon landings didn't happen, and I've got all this evidence that the moon landing didn't happen. What? Got yourself a bit mixed up there, Kyle.
Proof, scientific proof. And the question here with TJump is whether or not he believes scientific proof actually exists or not. And if he does have scientific proof, I would love to see what kind of scientific proof he has that the moon landing actually happened. Now, when it comes to...
Well, you're going to see in a minute what TJump actually provides. And actually, I would go as far as to say it is proof. But it's nothing really particularly scientific, and this is how it all backfires on in a minute when TJump does his presentation.
Scientific proof. I would like to point out the vacuum chamber. one of my favorite instances is what happens to a balloon in a vacuum chamber. That balloon expands, and in this instance, it's filling up the entire thing. But when we put it into a tin can, like a soda can, that soda can is going to expand as well until it explodes.
Well, I've heard this argument before. The thing, well, I'm going to assure you, I don't need to tell any of you guys this, but a soda can actually is designed to actually withstand quite a lot more pressures, but outwards. And he's thinking of the astronaut spacesuits and the spacecraft. And the spacecraft and the astronaut spacesuits were literally, PSI wise, I think with pure oxygen, I think it's like about 4.5 PSI. And these soda cans is literally, for off the top of my head, it's coming close to around more, if not more than 100 PSI. So you can't really make that comparison, can you, Kyle?
You can see there. So when it comes to soda cans and vacuums, I have to point out the lunar lander and what that's made out of, okay, and just how thick the lunar lander was, which is comparable to a soda can.
No, it's not comparable to soda can because you're talking about different pressures.
The lunar lander has got a very thin wall. Yeah.
Thin wall in some places, not in all places, Kyle. Okay, so no, you're wrong on this stupid image.
So that lunar lander is going to pop up like this, right?
No, Kyle, because within the astronaut spacesuit and the spacecraft, first of all, was made from much more rigid materials. In the astronaut spacesuit for Apollo, there is actually a layer that prevents the spacesuit from expanding, because they learned the lesson from the first EVA, which was a Russian cosmonaut who had a problem with his spacesuit did expand and he couldn't get through the airlock in order to get back in. So he had to punch a hole, I believe, to actually let some of the pressure out slowly so he could get back in again. But I think NASA actually discovered these things by themselves with their own testing here on Earth.
Should explode in the vacuum of space under that kind of pressure.
No, well, there's not that kind of pressure at all. You're talking about 4 or 5 PSI. Absolute nonsense, Kyle. Sorry, you're wrong.
And we also have the astronaut suits themselves, which would expand until they explode. Why are the why are the astronaut suits themselves so thick when the lunar lander has such a thin
different materials, Kyle, different materials.
Skin. So there's a huge difference right there. So here we have them moving their hands up and down, right? And so when you put like a vacuum, just put like 7 pounds of pressure in sorry, it's not a vacuum, but if you put 7 pounds of pressure just in a basketball, that thing is pretty firm, right? And so this is like quite a bit more than 7 pounds of pressure on a astronaut suit. You shouldn't even be able to put your arms down in that.
Nonsense.
So here I have the instance of the astronaut in the vacuum chamber. Am I okay to let this guy speak for himself here?
Sure.
Okay.
His experience being one.
As I stumbled backwards, I could feel the saliva on my tongue starting to bubble just before I went unconscious. And that's kind of the last thing I remember.
Essentially, he had no pressure on the outside of his body.
You're going to get confused here in a minute. Kyle gets confused between decompression and recompression. He's going to get very confused. And also, he's going to mention about the bends as well. And he gets very confused about the bends as well. He doesn't know what the bends is, clearly.
And that's a very unusual case to get. And there's very little in the medical literature as to what happens when you have that. There's a lot of conjecture, that your fluids will boil.
Within 25 seconds, a co-worker sitting in a partially pressurized antechamber and wearing an oxygen mask was able to dash in.
Just the speed at which they were able to get some.
Okay. So, yeah, just the speed at which they were able to get someone in there was really fast. Like, yeah, really, really fast. And that tells you that it wasn't even that strong of a vacuum yet.
I mean, you didn't even listen there because they said in the video, just as if you heard just a second ago there, is the guy in the other chamber was in a partially pressurized chamber. Okay. See, this is where Kyle's getting confused. Because in this chamber they're in right now, where this astronaut is, they're lowering the pressure, okay? They're going to try and get it to as near as the vacuum as they possibly can, right? In the next pressure chamber along, it was partially pressurized, okay? So in an emergency, which is what they were there for, they could actually depressurize to the same pressure that guy is actually in. So he didn't pay attention to what's been said.
It in just over a minute.
It's much.
So I've gone and talked to actual people who professionally work with vacuum chambers, and it takes them hours, like 12 hours, to get a vacuum chamber all the way up to pressure.
See, all the way up to pressure. See, he's confused again. No, this chamber that he's in is not being put to a higher pressure, Kyle. It's a lower pressure, okay, compared to sea level. So 17.5 psi, lowered down to maybe, I don't know, possibly about 1 or 2 psi at this point. That he collapses because his suit sprung a leak, and this is what testing's about. So no, he's totally confused. He's obviously thinking that this pressure chamber, they're raising it to big pressures. No, they're not.
And then to decompress it, yeah, it takes a.
Yeah, see, decompress it. They're not decompressing; they're repressing, not depressing.
Quite a while, and
much faster than you would ever come down in an airplane. It would really hurt your ears if you did that.
Not so. You also have to worry about things like the bends when you do scuba diving. That's a decompression sickness that definitely can kill people. And so
you see, decompression sickness, but they're not decompressing. They're not depressing, Kyle. And then he goes on to about and explains the bends as well, and he's got that confused too. When
his suit suddenly loses pressure because it popped under the.
No, he didn't pop at all. It leaked. His pressure, his suit lost pressure when he's in a low pressure environment or almost a vacuum.
Under pressure, yeah. When they jump in there, if it goes really fast, yeah, that person could die from oxidization of the blood.
Not to mention,
what? Oxidization of the blood? That's not what the bends does, Kyle. What happens is that the bends, when you go from a high pressure to a lower pressure environment too quickly, okay, the body produces nitrogen bubbles in the blood and also your vital organs, okay, and including your brain. That's what's dangerous. It's got nothing to do with oxidizing the blood, Kyle. So you got the bends the one way round, okay? It's going from high pressure to low pressure, not low pressure to high pressure, Kyle. Confused.
Okay, so.
Which can...
Miraculously, LeBlanc had already regained consciousness.
Yeah, so I don't really know the full effects as to what happens when you go from a lower pressure to a higher pressure quickly. I think your ears pop or things like that, but it certainly doesn't cause the bends, because that's not what the bends is, Kyle. It doesn't happen though. I think you need to do your research, do a little bit more research before you do these debates as to what's going on here and also what the bends is. You're confused and you're completely wrong.
When I stood up in the chamber, I felt fine. My ears ached a little bit from the course of rapid repressurization, and that's basically.
There you go. Rapid repressurization. It wasn't decompression. That's what Kyle thinks.
Only effect I had, this was one of the few instances where anybody was ever exposed to that low of a pressure and lived to tell about it with no obvious damage.
Which was only possible because it wasn't as extreme as lunar conditions.
So, yeah, it wasn't as extreme as lunar conditions. And now I'm just kind of pointing out the different layers of that astronaut suit.
You're coming up on 12 minutes, just so you know. So I'd want to encourage you to keep
some parts of report.
Okay, sorry. There's interruptions there that kind of took my time away. But okay, I'm all good. The astronaut suit had a whole bunch of layers to it, and the lunar lander itself did not. It was.
Yes, Kyle, because the astronaut suit has got multiple layers for thermal protection. Okay. And other layers for, like I said, for not so it doesn't blow up and, things like that. And also, so thermal protection and also environmental control. The very inner suit was kind of like I suppose, the underwear where they had cooling. They had tiny tubes and all the rest of it. So that's the reason why there's so many layers, Kyle. Oh, as well as micrometeoric protection as well, right? Of Kevlar, I think it was. That's the reason. The spacecraft, the LEM, has thermal control systems in it. It's got environmental controls already built in. And there's some areas that are very thin. So it's already got those layers, essentially, because it's much bigger and easier to manage. That's it.
Really, really thin. As thin as a few sheets of aluminum foil. That's my point.
You got it. Thank you very much for that opening statement, Kyle. And we're going to kick it over to TJump for his opening as well. But before we do, I want to say, folks, if it's your first time here at Modern Day Debate, want to let you know we are a neutral platform hosting debates on science, religion, and politics. I'm your host, James. We hope.
Yeah, absolutely right. S. Thurston too. I don't think we met before. You're welcome. The door that opened into the higher pressure area, that means it must have been small enough pressure difference to open the door. Exactly. They just quickly depressurized from that chamber to the other chamber. So yeah, absolutely.
You feel welcome, no matter what walk of life you're from, whether you think the moon landing is the real deal or a hoax, we're glad that you're here. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button, as we have many more juicy debates coming up. For example, at the bottom right of your screen, we're absolutely thrilled about this one. Daniel Hakikachu and Mike Jones from Inspiring Philosophy have agreed to debate. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be a great one. So, like I said, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for juicy debates like that one at the bottom right of your screen. With that, thanks very much, Tom. The floor is all yours.
I'm going to fast forward slightly here because he has some technical issues, so I'm going to fast forward a touch.
That's one small step for man.
Can you hear it now?
Yep.
All right.
Earth, Neil Armstrong became the first human to set foot on the lunar surface. The world discovered this monochrome landscape through the footsteps left by Armstrong and Aldrin. Beyond the technical...
Yeah, it's going fast because of him. That's not me, by the way.
...and political success represented by Apollo 11's mission, it was an opportunity for the astronauts to gather samples and install devices for scientific measurements. In particular, they deployed a reflective panel no larger than a suitcase. 50 years later, it's among the instruments that continue to supply the scientific community with data. Return to Earth, and more precisely to the south of France. This plateau is home to the Calerne Observatory. Among the instruments directed towards space, one telescope in particular is studying the lunar surface, and has been for nearly half a century. With a 1.5-meter diameter mirror, this telescope is equipped with a laser which enables it...
Yeah, it looks like some of this video footage is not that great. It's not appearing on the live stream very well. Unfortunately, there's not much I can do about that. It's more to do with the video. Sorry about that, guys.
...measure the distance between the Earth and the Moon with great precision. Every day, scientists from the observatory calculate the trajectories needed to find the reflectors left on the surface by the various Apollo missions. Over the years, the study has benefited greatly from technological advancements.
50 years ago, measurements of this distance taken by laser were accurate to within about a meter. Thanks to the evolution of technology that followed, our measurements today are precise to within a few millimeters, with an exactitude on the order of a centimeter. This exactitude is a little less than we'd like, due to misreadings caused by atmospheric interference. We have a lot of studies currently centered on the impact of the atmosphere on our lasers in order to compensate for these perturbations.
On this June evening, moonrise is predicted at around 11 p.m.
Yeah, so as Farm Boys just pointed out, there was 3 NASA laser reflectors and 2 left by the Russians, and so it was five in total, I believe. Correct me, is that right, Farms Boy? If you can let me know, maybe. I think I've got that right.
After calibrating the various instruments that ensure the stability of this extremely powerful laser, the operating team will need to reorient it towards the moon to begin collecting data. This laser, visible to the naked eye at night, produces 10 pulses per second. Out of the thousands of photons bombarding the moon, few will return to Earth and be captured by the telescope. A round-trip journey.
Okay, so just to clarify, so what this laser can actually do, it can actually send a pulse of laser in a specific pattern, and it be reflected back because they know the locations of the retro laser reflectors. So the pattern that they get back, then they'll know that it's reflected back their pattern, so they know exactly what it is. So that's how we know how far away the moon is.
Of roughly 800,000 kilometers that takes 2.4 seconds to complete. The observer on Earth must continually and manually correct the telescope's aim. In this way, they'll obtain an echo, a sign that the laser has succeeded in striking one of the reflectors left on the lunar surface.
We use 5 reflectors on the surface of the moon, 3 of which were deployed by the Americans on Apollo missions, the first being Apollo 11.
Oh yeah, there you go, I was right. I remembered. Yeah, I was right. Thanks, Farmers.
It's a panel which is 50 centimeters squared and which was equipped with 100 corner cube reflectors. Corner cube reflectors are devices which, unlike regular mirrors, can reflect light back in the direction it came from. When one looks at this kind of object, one will see the center of their own eye reflected back, which is exactly the kind of passive system used on the moon. There are 3 American reflective panels from Apollo 11, 14, and 15, as well as 2 Russian rovers, Lunokhod 1 and 2, which were also equipped with this type of system.
Measurements collected by this observatory, in conjunction with an international network of observation stations, have improved the database which feeds the research of scientists around.
All right, that's all I really need right there. So that proves for a fact anybody can go to rent one of those observatories. There's particularly one I found. It's the Mount Williams Observatory. You can rent it for nights. You can use the laser. You can bounce it off of these 5 reflectors, and you can find for a fact that there are human devices on the moon that can be provably there that anybody can go find. That debunks literally everything he said in 5 seconds.
Yeah, absolutely right. So those are those reflectors. I did the research after I heard him saying that when I listened to this. And yeah, you can go there. Any institution can go there, or even individuals if they really want to, if they know what they're doing. And they can connect up their own equipment, their own computers, laptops, or whatever. And they can basically do what they do. And you can get your own data and analyze it yourself on your own computers. So yeah, anybody can do it. So yeah, he's absolutely right. My only criticism of TJump is this is the only thing that he presents. So I was a little bit disappointed in that regard. So it's constructive criticism. I hope you don't mind, TJump, but I would hoped for more. But you're absolutely right. The fact that those laser reflectors are there, and they were put there by human beings, so therefore they were definitely human beings on the moon. So you're absolutely right. But yeah, I would just like to have seen more. That's all. So this is kind of pretty much the point that I've seen up to. Beyond this, I might have seen a few minutes maybe, but beyond this, I haven't really seen that very much at all. So I'm a bit blind. So what you're seeing is what I'm going to see as well, in the most part.
Done.
With that, want to say thank you very much to our guests for those openings. We're going to jump into the open conversation, but first, want to let you know, as you can see at the bottom right of your screen, we are currently working toward meeting 1,000 followers on TikTok. The reason is that unlocks us being able to live stream these debates just like this one on TikTok. So if you haven't yet, I just threw that link to our TikTok in the live chat, and Surgeon General has also put it. Thanks very much. Appreciate that in the live chat, Surgeon General. That TikTok link for Modern Day Debate is also in our description box. If you want to follow us there, that helps us expand our neutral platform, as we want to give everybody their fair shot to make their case on a level playing field here at Modern Day Debate. So thank you very much, gentlemen. The floor is all yours for that open dialogue.
Okay, so we've got common ground that science can prove things and that Jacqueline McLaughlin was wrong. So
No, science cannot prove things. Science.
You just said that.
provides
You just said that was proof, though.
Sure, it's proof you're wrong. Science doesn't
Okay,
prove
so
things.
you-
I can prove
okay.
you're wrong.
Okay, so you can prove I'm wrong, but that's not a scientific claim.
No, that's just you're an idiot. That's all that is. So yes.
That's not okay. Now that's
So
just
that's not science proving things. That's me proving you're an idiot. That's all that is.
okay.
That's all that is.
Yeah, that's all you've got. It's just thou.
I don't know what this red card thing is. I think it's Kyle. I think that's just daft. Please stop that. It's childish.
Okay, whatever.
Well, no, I proved you wrong. I literally provided a scientific experiment anybody can do. You can go rent an observatory to prove that there are reflectors on the moon, which debunks everything you said. And then I called you an idiot. So an ad hominem is when you just say you're an idiot, therefore you're wrong. It's not the same thing.
That's still it's still
no,
a
it's
foul.
not. No, it's
It's
not.
still
Do
a
you have any
foul.
evidence? Do you want to do? No, it's not. Do you want to respond to the thing that just proved all your worldview wrong?
Yeah,
ahead.
it's really simple. Okay, like they were able to bounce lasers off the moon before they ever claimed to do that. How does
No,
that
they
compare?
couldn't.
You claim that never happened.
What do you? No, they could not bounce lasers off of 5 reflectors on the moon in particular directions.
They could
before they
bounce
put them there.
lasers off the moon before they ever claimed to have.
So he's claiming that the NASA or whoever used to bounce lasers off the moon before the reflectors were there. Really? News to me. Has anybody else heard of that? I haven't.
Reflectors on the moon.
No, they could not bounce lasers off of reflectors that reflect back where you pointed
Okay,
from, where you pointed from.
Okay, you haven't really provided anything other than NASA says so. That there.
No, this is
that there
something
are
you can
reflectors
do.
on the-
You can go rent this and prove it yourself, and people have done this. So that's like corroboration from multiple sources that people do in college all the time. So this is you.
Right. So you can go to this institution where these reflectors are and you can do it yourself. No NASA involvement whatsoever. So this is not anybody telling you what's going on. It's actually happening and you can see it happening. So yeah.
Been debunked, not just NASA says so. This is everybody that says so because you've been debunked. And the point here is that those reflectors, they reflect light back from where they are sent from, which means you can confirm this from multiple different observatories. Now, if you just flash a laser at the moon, it won't reflect back directly at you. It's going to
That's
reflect in
exactly
different
what
directions.
happened back before.
Stop talking. Stop talking and listen to my words so you know why you're wrong. So when you reflect a laser off of the moon, for it to go directly back towards the sensor, you need a device that sends the photons directly back to the sensor. It doesn't just naturally do that. To do that, you need a device like the one shown in the video, which is a man-made device, which there's 5 of them, and there's only 5 locations on the moon where this happens, magically for some magical, spooky reason. Guess what? That proves we've been to the moon. Debunked.
No. Yeah.
Yes, debunked.
Okay. Yeah. No. Yeah, just because you say so doesn't make it so.
No, this is proven. You can, again, I gave you the sources to check this
just saying
yourself.
So. You're just saying so.
Yes, that you can rent an observatory and do the experiment yourself. Yeah, anybody can do this.
Okay, when you go to the observatory, okay, do you see any laser actually coming back, like with your eyes? Do you see it coming back, or does an observatory
You
just
don't
say,
need to see things
hey,
with
guess
your
what?
eyes.
You just hit
You
them.
can see it with the computer. You can bring your own computer.
Really? A computer can do it, huh?
Yes,
Yeah.
you
So-
can bring your own computer. That's you make your.
Yeah, so just as Alan Evans and Farmer's Boy and Rich have actually said, so yeah, there was radar maybe, but certainly there was no lasers bounced off the moon before the retroreflectors were put there. Certainly not. So now Kyle sounds like he's going to start saying there's a problem with the instruments somehow being doctored to give you false information of what you're looking at. Sounds like he's what the direction he's going in right now.
Self and say, does it read back sensory data of lasers coming back to the sensor? Yes, you're debunked.
Okay, so it's kind of like one of those little pop-up toys. If I push a button, all of a sudden I've got Big Bird popping up out of the toy, and because that Big Bird's popping up, oh look,
well, if you're so dumb and don't know how to make computers, that's the best you can do, I guess. But if you learn how to do computers,
they just give
and
you
sensors,
whatever information they want to.
No, you can bring your own equipment, bro. Use your own computer, bro.
Yeah,
they don't give you any equipment. They don't just make things like hack your computer to give you data, bro.
Where does the data come from? They give it to you.
No, they have a sensor. You can rent the sensor and you can hook it up to your computer to give it data.
Yes, so this is what he's doing. This is what Flurfs do. It's like they don't trust what they're actually being given. Nobody's given them anything. You're connecting your own computer to a laser, essentially, and bouncing it off the laser reflectors, and you can get the data back. But what he's claiming is that data is somehow doctored, exactly what I was saying earlier on, somehow falsified and put into his computer in some form or another. Oh, God. Come on, Kyle.
They don't control the sensor.
Sounds like you're making stuff up right now. Like, have you ever done this before?
Yes, yes, I have. You can do this before.
You've got video footage
all
of
the
you
time.
doing this?
You've been debunked.
No, he's not making stuff up, Kyle. It's true. Do some research,
bro.
I don't think so.
Yep, you can too. I Mount Wilson Observatory. You can rent the laser, you can rent the device, and you can show the results. Anybody can.
Yep, I can verify that. Yep, you absolutely can.
Laser, because the device just gives you numbers and says, "Hey, look at this."
Oh, oh, device just gives you numbers, and there it is. How can we trust the numbers? Big scary numbers. Can't do that.
So I can draw a stick figure.
Well, your ignorance of
man.
not knowing how devices work isn't evidence that it doesn't work.
Oh, that's another red card there, buddy.
No, that's just a fact. If you are too ignorant to know how devices work,
that's another red card there, buddy. Hey,
they don't work.
Moderator, do we have any kind of penalties for this stuff?
That's not an insult. That's just the truth. If you don't know,
yeah, what's the moderate here? If you're being ignorant of the truth, that's just true. What's to moderate? Oh dear me. Oh, let's just get this out of the way.
Ignorant of how a device works. That is not evidence the device does not work. That's just a fact. Like, what about that sentence did not make sense to you? If you are ignorant of how a device works, that does not show the device does not work. Which part of that are you objecting to?
Yeah, exactly as Anand's here saying at the moment. His problem is that you need to use an electronic sensor to be able to observe the reflected laser system. So really all Kyle wants, he wants to be able to handheld laser, see the laser going to the moon and coming back again. that's basically what all he wants. But no, it's not going to work like that.
If you don't know how a device works, that doesn't mean it doesn't work. Yeah, I get that.
Correct. There you go. That wasn't hard. We got you there. Applause.
Okay. So
that was your argument. So you debunked your own argument there. Thank you.
What was my argument?
The fact that you don't know how a device works because they're being controlled by the NASA conspiracy. Therefore, it must be a lie.
That's called a straw man because I never made
that. That was literally your argument. You're saying they're giving you the.
Stop these red cards. What's this about, Kyle? Stop it. It's childish, please.
Data. You're saying the NASA shields are controlling the device and giving you the data, even though it's your computer. Yeah, no, you don't know how the device works.
Okay. The device gives you data, right? Do you agree on that?
Yes. The device receives data and puts it on a screen for you. So you can
gives it to your computer. And so if it says, okay, well, you do these things just right, and then.
All right, yes. So NASA is fed the information in the device and fed it into the his computer. The fact that NASA has nothing to do with this laser reflector, this laser at all, Doesn't seem to have anything to do with it. He doesn't seem to be able to compute that. Oh, we got Southern Sal is joined us. Hi, Sal. Nice to see you.
This is going to happen. So it's one of those pop-up toys.
Yeah, that's how science works. You do an experiment, you have a result, and then it gives you a consistent result. That's science. Science is good. Yes.
Okay. So how does any of that destroy my argument about the vacuum blowing a hole in the lunar lander? Or
it wouldn't.
an
You just don't
astronaut suit?
understand how space works. Like the
Oh.
pressure in the lunar lander is less than the pressure in your tire. Like just
Exactly. Yeah. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's something about 4.5, 5 psi, I believe, in the lunar lander. Same with the spacesuit, I believe. So yeah, somewhere in that region. So somebody please correct me if I'm wrong. I could be wrong about that. It might be slightly more. Not sure.
the tire explode? No, your car tire is doing just fine with much.
Yeah. So car tire, what, 30, 25, 30 psi, something like that. Bit of a difference.
Greater pressure than that of the lunar lander. Problem solved.
All right, that right there proves to me if it's really got that little of pressure inside the lunar lander, that is proof that it's impossible. It didn't happen. You put like that much pressure in a balloon
gibberish.
and the balloon expands. It
Yes,
expands
because a
in vacuum.
balloon is made of rubber.
Yeah, and guess what? When you put a tin can in a vacuum chamber,
Yeah. Thanks, Alan. Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, I thought it was about that.
like a soda can, okay, that's going to expand too.
Not
Even though
nearly
it's
as
made of
much.
metal.
No,
Metal is going to expand. And
Very
I've
little.
got video footage of that.
very little.
It's enough to blow a hole in the thing. Yeah.
No, you can design it so it can expand and not blow a hole in it. That's not hard.
Yeah, I mean that's yeah, they both the spacecraft to an extent, and particularly the astronauts' Apollo spacesuits. They were designed to expand very slightly, but there was a layer in there to prevent it from expanding too much. Absolutely right.
It's not hard at all. Like I don't even know what you're talking about right now. It's gibberish.
That's because you
Like,
didn't watch.
it's not. There's no law of physics that aluminum
kind of
with
wandered
pressure
off.
on it will explode. There's no law of physics that says that. You can make composites that don't explode. They can hold stronger weights. They don't.
Yeah, exactly. It's not difficult. It's just different materials, Kyle.
Need to because it's not really that much pressure. I mean, obviously, like a pop can is not the same kind of aluminum as used in the space station. So obviously, they're not going to have the same tensile strength. Like, do you not know any of those words?
Okay, so yeah, you're just saying, oh well, it's strong enough. We just kind of a wizard did it. A wizard did it.
Oh, God. Red card. Wizard. Here we go. He's coming up the wizardry stuff now. Oh, my word.
Oh, I'm saying that there are multiple kinds of metal. Not all metal is a pop can. So putting pressure on a pop can and seeing a pop can explode is not evidence that any metal in space would explode. That is a
It's
stupid
going to
argument.
expand, and that it's yeah.
Expansion does not mean explode. Things can expand and not explode.
okay, when it expands and can't contain, there's more outward pressure than there is the tensile strength, as you described it, then it's going to explode.
Right, which is why we have more tensile strength in the space station than the amount of pressure inside of it, so it doesn't explode. Problem solved. Ta-da! Science magic. Whoa.
So, why did the astronaut suits have to be so thick, and yet the walls of the lunar lander, why were they allowed to be so thin?
For lots of reasons. What is that? Why is this relevant?
Because that right there is kind of a contradictory statement.
No.
I'd like to have seen TJump go into that a little bit further. Well, it's simple because, as I was saying earlier on, the layers of the astronaut spacesuit needed to incorporate all layers because they're actually walking on the moon. They need to be close to the body, right? So inside it, on the outside, you've got micrometeorite protection. That's number one. You've got multiple layers of thermal protection because the spacecraft has its own thermal protection, it has its own environmental controls, all being built into the spacecraft. Okay, but obviously the spacesuit essentially is a spacecraft, but it's much, much smaller. Okay, so they need those multiple layers of thermal protection. Okay, and then there's a layer, like I said, that actually stops the spacesuit from expanding. There's the layer that needs to actually provide the pressure inside the spacesuit, so you can have the 4.5 psi of pure oxygen, as has already been pointed out, exactly in the chat here right now. And also there was a layer like an undergarment where they had tubing for cooling down the astronaut or controlling the temperature right next to the skin of the astronaut itself. That's the reason.
The spacesuits aren't made of metal, bro. They're made of cloth, bro. Cloth is not as strong as metal, and so if you want to have the same tensile strength of a piece of cloth as you do a piece of metal, you're probably going to need more cloth. Like what? How is this hard? This is not hard.
Okay, it should be expanding, right? It's got a lot more flexibility. Should be a lot more like that balloon.
So we use, again, so I think I covered this, the part where you have objects with tensile strength and you put enough tensile strength so it doesn't explode. That's the whole solution to the problem here.
And then you get the problem with being able to move your arms up and down, right?
No, that's not a problem.
Your arms are going to get really stiff.
No.
It's like a basketball.
No, it's not a problem.
You put like 5 pounds of pressure in a basketball and you lose flexibility of the basketball.
It's because a basketball has no joints. If you have a joint that can swivel, then you don't have that problem.
You can like move your hands and moving.
Yes.
Okay. Like your elbows are able to move their elbows to swing a hammer, right?
Yes.
So
none of that is a problem.
Because you said so.
No, because it's not a basketball. A basketball is a single piece of object that doesn't have any joints. If you put a joint on a basketball, like suppose you cut a basketball in half, you like put like little rollers on it and then glued it back together and then remolded it up. You could twist it. It wouldn't be hard. You just twist it. Problem solved. So if you have twisty points, you can have like twisty points on the sides and then twist those like the little arms, and twisty points on the fingers, and those can twist too. It's not hard.
They've got twisty points on every joint on the astronaut suit, right? And
yes, Kyle. They've got twisty points on the joints. I don't understand what his confusion is about this. I really don't know where or what he's trying to attempt to do with this.
That's how they did it, is kind of Mr. Roboto style on swinging that hammer.
Yes, that's how Kevlar works. It's flexible. Flexible things. And flex, yes.
Yeah, if it's flexible though, then you've got the flexible basketball. Is what
you can have a flexible basketball too. Like those are easy. Just don't make them out of solid leather. Problem solved. Like there are flexible basketballs. They're very squishy. Yes, you can squish them.
Yeah, Kevlar is a lot less flexible than leather is.
No.
Yeah.
No. Like your ignorance of how these materials work is not actually evidence here. So yes, Kevlar is actually extremely flexible. That's why it's so good against.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Robert. I was muted. Beg your pardon. I'm so sorry. That's my bad. I was coughing a little bit there, so I'm muted. So I forgot to unmute myself. Yeah. Sorry. Can everybody hear me? Okay. I trust you can now. Sorry, my bad. Schoolboy error. I've unmuted now. Haven't I? Can you hear me now? Oh, you should be able to hear me. Oh, you can hear me now. That's all right then. There's just a bit more of a delay than I thought. That's okay. Yeah, my bad. Sorry about that. I have no idea what I was just saying either. So yeah, I don't really understand why his difficulty having with this. The pressure differential. The pressure in a basketball, right? What is around about probably around about 20 psi, 25 psi, and the astronaut's spacesuit is around about 4.5 psi. So the pressure differential is 4.5 psi against a almost perfect vacuum. So yeah, there's a bit of a difference between that and a basket. A basketball was meant to be just one shape. It doesn't need to do anything else apart from be a round ball. So why he's making this kind of comparison, I have absolutely no idea. And yes, you can make materials that are flexible, and because of it's only 4.5 psi, it is quite possible to build a space suit that you can actually move your arms and move your legs and all the rest of it, and do what they needed to do on the moon.
Bullets. Kevlar, the way it works is that it flexes to catch the bullet. It is meant to be extremely flexible. That's how it stops bullets. Your ignorance of the topic is not evidence. Yes, you can bend
I've had the Kevlar
under
bulletproof
pressure.
things, but you don't really bend them to like in half or anything like that.
Yes, you can bend Kevlar exactly like that. Have you ever held Kevlar? It's very flexible.
I've had bulletproof vests before. I was in the Guard for 8 years.
Yeah, you see, he's getting confused between the bulletproof vest and Kevlar itself. Kevlar material is flexible, Kyle. You said that you were in the whatever it was, we called them the TA. Yeah, he said he was in there, but he's getting confused that with the plates that you put in those body, the bulletproof vests and stuff like that, right? Yeah, of course they're not going to be flexible, but Kevlar is flexible. You could look it up. It's a flexible material. Period.
Good for you. Then you should know it's flexible.
It's not that flexible.
All right. Before we
I've
go,
already debunked you on this.
I want to say we do have a poll, as we do appreciate you folks having responded to that poll in the live chat. We did want to bring up a couple of topics, as these are topics we asked the audience, what do you most want to hear discussed next? One is, are the moon landing photos forgeries or fakes?
No.
The vacuum just proves that they are fake. And you've got the testimonials that these things happen. That's all evidence, right? Do you agree that
testimonials? What testimonials are there then? Because there's very few that you can have testimonials that say this is impossible when, I don't know, how many people are involved in the moon landings. I mean, holy mackerel. If you want testimonials.
Testimony is evidence?
Sure, like the testimony of the thousands of people who worked on these.
There you go. Yep, there you go. You just said it, just what I was saying there.
And the testimony of the dozens of astronauts who said they were there. So if you want to count testimony, I win because I have more of it.
Oh, so that's called the appeal.
No. If you want to count testimony,
let's add.
I have more testimony. That's just your own standard.
Let's add popular.
No.
Okay, I'm just saying. I'm just defining the definition.
If you want to define testimony as evidence, I have more astronauts who give testimony.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm not disagreeing with that. There's no argument there. Okay. But yeah, that doesn't make it true. Okay. Saying I have more testimony.
Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. So what he's basically saying is that I can use the nut jobs that I find in the internet as testimony, but TJump's evidence of testimony is not valid. And there's more of it. How Kyle, how does that, what? Isn't that a double standard? So you're either going to have to accept testimony as evidence or you're not. If you are, sorry, but TJump, exactly because he said he's got more of it than you have. You've got a few nut jobs on the internet. Oh, Jesus, wept.
Not counting testimony as evidence.
It is evidence. But
well, then I have all the evidence.
That's why I didn't really lead with that.
You have two options here. Either we accept testimony as evidence, in which case I have a whole bunch of experts who have testimony, and you have like a couple deluded people, and I win. Or we don't accept testimony.
Yeah, a couple of deluded people, exactly. So, Kyle, you're gonna have to make up your mind. You're either gonna accept testimony as evidence or not. Okay, you can't have it both ways. You can't sort of say, well, his testimonies are not good and yours are fine. Okay, so you're either gonna accept both or you're not.
Evidence, and I have actual things that we can verify today, like lasers on the moon, and I win. So either way, I win. You can pick whichever one you want to go.
There's a difference between convicting evidence and non-convicting evidence. Do you agree?
Sufficient evidence and bullcrap? Yes, I agree.
Okay, so there is convicting evidence and non-convicting evidence.
Right, convicting evidence and non-convicting. I mean, that's subjective, isn't it? I mean, that's for you to decide whether that's not for you to decide whether something is true or not true, or whether it's strong enough evidence or not. So basically what he's saying is that the people that are testifying that they were involved in NASA and coming out with a load of crap on the internet is basically has more conviction, is more likely to be true than the thousands of others or all the astronauts that actually went there, is basically what he's saying. What absolute gibberish.
So
There's
if I were
sufficient
to,
evidence of bullcrap. Yes, I have the sufficient evidence.
all right, if I were to like put my hand on someone's forehead and it's warm, right? And I could say, oh, okay, their head is warm, therefore that's evidence that they might have a fever. But it's not convicting evidence because my hand just could be cold, right? So that's the difference between convicting and
what the word
non-convicting.
sufficient means?
Sufficient is, yeah, it's enough to convict, right? It's enough-
Congratulations. You're just repeating the same point we've already agreed upon. Yes, there is a sufficient evidence and there is bullcrap, insufficient evidence. Yes, we agree these are two things. I have...
Yeah, sufficient and insufficient evidence. And like I said, I've always put mine on the what I believe based on sufficient evidence as well as quality of evidence, because you can have so-called lots of evidence, but it could be very, very weak. And that for me wouldn't necessarily convince me of something is true or not true.
The sufficient evidence. You
sufficient because you have more of it, right?
If you want to count personal testimony as evidence towards some kind of sufficient basis, then yes, I have more of that.
You have more of it. Yeah.
In terms of the actual photos, though, Kyle, I think people would love to hear, are the photos forgeries? More detail on that. Because I think we skipped over to like different kind of indirect arguments for them being forgeries. In terms of addressing the photos more specifically.
All right. Well, there are, a lot of people like to point out like the high level of detail in the photos. And I just look at the high level of details and say, hey, that can't happen in a vacuum. The vacuum chamber would affect the gelatin inside the layers of the film. And yeah, it's gonna. Have you not looked at what the film is made out of? You can actually still buy the film today. There's gelatin in the film, and that gelatin is going to get affected by the vacuum. Not to mention.
I'd like to hear Alan's view on what he's just talking about there. I know it's nonsense, but maybe could you sort of tell him why he's talking nonsense, Alan, as brief as you can, obviously within the chat. That'd be really good. Those that you don't know, Alan Evans, he is a photographer, and he has an interest in the same sort of stuff that I'm interested in as well. So, yeah, I'd like to hear what your views of what he's talking about there, Alan. That'd be really good if you're still listening.
You have to worry about cold welding, which is going to affect every part of the camera. And every time those astronauts are falling down directly on that camera and smashing that camera lens right into the ground, that right there is going to damage the kind of quality you can make. And so you can point at all these great, high, really good, detailed photos, but those are evidence that the moon landing did not happen because you can't take that good of photos under those kind of conditions. Okay, you've got
yes, you can. Like none of that's hard. Like there are many ways to do that. In fact, the gelatin was specifically designed to be in space. So saying that space would affect it just means you're again ignorant of how it works.
Right.
So yes, it's fine. It works fine in space. No problem. Totally fine.
Okay. You can actually buy it today.
I'm not done. I'm not done speaking yet. Shh. Secondly, the way space works is that there's less interference. And so because there's less interference between the photons of light being bounced off the object and the camera lens, would actually be more detailed than a photo in the atmosphere. What gibberish are you talking about? Of course, there's high detailed photos of space. Okay. This doesn't mean that they're fake because you don't understand how the mechanics works. Again, this is you don't understand how the machine works, therefore it's fake. Okay. Those are just again your argument for ignorance.
Okay, you don't understand is an ad hominem. That's an
oh god, red card again. Stop it, Kyle.
Ad hominem.
No, it's a fact. It's a fact. Yes. It's not an ad hominem.
Because you say so. Because you say so. Yeah.
Yes, because you think the gelatin would be affected by space. It's not. That's not how it works. So obviously you must necessarily be ignorant of how it works. Therefore, you're ignorant of how it works.
That's assuming things.
Premise conclusion.
Yeah, you don't know what I know, and so that's kind of how it goes. But
well, I know what you just said. What you just said is wrong.
You can actually buy the ectochrome film today, and you can actually put that ectochrome film into a vacuum chamber and see that it actually gets damaged by the vacuum chamber. It's testable. You can do it yourself, right?
Sure, and it'll work.
You can do it yourself. You can do it yourself. Yeah,
yes.
It's provable. It's provable.
And it works. And we do it today, and it works. It still works. The pictures still work.
Yeah, and you can't take high-quality photos.
Yes, you can.
In a vacuum chamber. No, you can't. You can do it yourself.
Yes, you can. They literally do this all the time.
It gets damaged.
We have vacuum chambers. We do this.
It gets damaged.
No, it doesn't. I've never seen a photo of a vacuum chamber be damaged because of the vacuum, because literally they account for
You haven't looked into this yet. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I'd like to see this evidence that you're saying that they put it in the vacuum tube and it's damaged and doesn't work anymore. Has anybody else seen that? I haven't seen anything like that, I believe.
I've looked into this a lot. They take lots of photos in vacuum chambers. That's one of the things they're commonly used for. They are not degraded by the vacuum.
They are.
They are not.
Provable. I can show you pictures. So
photos from vacuum chamber. All right, let's see here. We got photos from a vacuum chamber. Here, this one's from a nuclear reactor. This one's from a Large Hadron Collider. I'm not seeing any degradation. These are very clear photos.
Yeah, I don't think those are taken with ectochrome film, though.
Okay.
Right? If you take a digital camera and stick it in a vacuum chamber, yeah, it's going to be a little different than putting ectochrome film.
Ectochrome films in a vacuum. University of Pittsburgh. Oh, these are pretty clear photos. I don't know what gibberish you're talking about.
I don't think they're quite as clear as the visor photo.
They look perfectly clear. I see no degradation in the photo whatsoever.
Yeah, there's no degradation of the photo whatsoever. I can't see what you're talking about. So yeah, there's no. Yeah, I guess we're just trusting you, right? It's all faith.
Well, you can do you can do the experiment yourself. This is one that's been commonly repeated again by many universities all the time. This is not a hard thing to do. Do the machines of the camera that were built for the Apollo mission work in a vacuum? Yes. Yes, they do. Can you build them?
Yeah.
Yes, you
can.
Have
you ever heard of cold welding before?
Yes.
Have you ever heard of cold welding? Cold welding.
Cold welding. Yes, I've heard of cold welding. What about it?
So cold welding is going to affect the joints of that camera. No? You don't think it's going to affect it?
No, I said how. How, question mark. How?
Well, there's no oxygen in between the two, and so you got two layers right next to each other, and they end up getting stuck together because of the cold welding.
What cold welding? It's space.
Cold welding affects plastics, and it also affects metals.
What cold welding? If I put two objects in space, they don't magically cold weld together because they're in space.
They don't cold weld together in their space. So you have
just metal on metal. It seems like your argument is any object.
I have absolutely no idea about cold welding or what he's talking about at all, so I can't really comment on any of this. But if anybody has heard about this and know things about it, what he's talking about, then yeah, please feel free to comment.
In space, that's metal, that's next to another metal object, will cold weld together because they're in space. That seems to be what you're saying.
Happen in space, yeah, because there's no oxidation layer between the two, and because when there's no oxidation layer between the two, they end up sticking together. And that was a big, huge thing with one of the satellite claims that they have is, they're trying to pull out this umbrella on this satellite, and all of a sudden the umbrella is getting stuck because of the cold welding. And so if it can happen to a satellite, then why couldn't it happen on the moon with the camera and like the shutter and so many other things? And you just look at the camera itself, and there's no insulation on that thing to protect it from the heat. And so you got all this radiation.
They're already joined together. What is your point here? So like if you take two pieces of metal.
There's moving parts in the camera
that are not the same material. So like you understand cold welding only works if they're the same material, right? So if you use a different material, problem solved.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, but there's still joints that are in there of the same material.
The joints are already connected. Like if they're already connected, they can't reconnect. It's like do you think like it's just if you have a screw that's of a single material, it's all just going to turn into a blob in space? No, it has
welding doesn't mean melting.
Parts that hold it together.
I never claimed that the screw would melt.
Okay, so an object that is connected by a joint that's been welded together already isn't going to cold fuse into a different shape because it's already connected, like a screw is already connected, right?
The screw is already connected, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely, Sal. Can agree more.
So it's not going to cold weld if they're already connected.
Yeah.
Already connected. There's nothing to...
If the screw is going into something of the same material, then it's going to cold weld to that material.
No, you're not understanding. So like a screw is going to maintain its shape in space, right?
Yeah, that's not an argument.
Right. So if you have two objects that are welded together before you go into space, and you bring them into space, and they're already welded together, they're not going to cold weld into a different shape. They're going to maintain their shape, aren't they?
Yeah, they're already together. So why would...
Like the shape of a camera, for example.
Okay, so there's moving parts within that camera, right?
Which are not the same material.
So,
problem solved.
Yeah, you'd have to have the visuals for that. Because
what?
Kyle's argument is kind of all falling apart, really, isn't it? As we expected, because I mean, Kyle at the very start, as we saw, tried to discredit TJump's previous statements on other debates. But he thought he was going to be blinding him with science and all the rest of it. And his argument was, well, you can't use science because you say science doesn't prove anything. And he's not denied he's ever said that. And this argument obviously is not working with him, that the whole narrative. And at the moment, he's just getting totally blown out of the water at the moment, because everything he's saying is completely wrong. And TJump knows exactly what he's talking about. So, yeah, guys, going to be coming to an end soon, not just yet, but shortly. If you've enjoyed the stream, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for coming. If you have enjoyed the stream, then please think about making a donation to PayPal. Super chats are fine, but they do take a considerable amount from super chats, and also it's a little bit more difficult to get the funds from all the super chats and things like that. So there's a link on the top of the chat that's been pinned. If you can afford any, or if there's anything you think that is this stream is actually worth, then please donate what you can. I really appreciate it. A link is also in the description of this thing as well, so of this stream as well. So yeah, please think about that. And then if you're new to the channel, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Also hit the click the bell icon, select all, and you'll be notified when I upload some more videos. But anyway, let's carry on for a little bit longer, and then I'll draw it to an end probably in the next 5 minutes or so, and we'll take it from there.
Cold welding only works when you have two metals of the same material. So if you have a different material, problem solved, right?
So all of the metal in the camera they used a different kind of metal with each piece in the camera. Is that your claim?
Sure, that would be really easy to do, actually. You could just like offset, use aluminum, titanium, aluminum, titanium, aluminum, titanium. That'd be really easy to do.
And so you're claiming that they made this special custom camera
well, they did make a special custom camera specifically for space. Yes, duh.
And they tested that out and put that in the vacuum and said, okay, well,
yes,
we got to make sure it
literally that's
well.
literally what they did with all of their equipment. They built a specially customized thing. This is why it cost so much money. Tested it out in a vacuum chamber to make sure it worked, and then brought it to space. That's the order of scientific experiment.
They did it. They tested it out in a vacuum chamber.
Yeah, Sal, I think he's getting a little bit confused as to what cold welding is. I've got to be honest with you, I don't really know much about cold welding. But as TJump has explained, if it's just all of the same materials, then that might happen in some circumstances. But the cameras clearly aren't. You know, all the components, all the different things that they have on the moon that they were using, the bits of equipment, are not all made from the same material. So yeah, pretty much that's what he's insinuating, Sal. Yeah.
Do you have any evidence that shows that a report saying, okay, the vacuum chamber test for the camera was done on this day before Apollo 11, and this is it? Or are you just making stuff up?
Let's check. Vacuum chamber test. Neil Armstrong practiced in vacuum chamber before Apollo 11. Yes, I do. I do have sources for this. Do you want one specifically for the camera?
You've got footage of Neil Armstrong in a vacuum chamber?
Maybe.
That would be interesting.
Do you want me to find that one too?
Well, I mean, why do you need Neil Armstrong in a vacuum chamber? I personally have met, well, not face to face. I know somebody who worked with the Gemini program to design the spacesuits for that. The first spacewalk, US spacewalks and things like that. He worked on the spacesuits for that. I know somebody. And of course, he was involved with all the testing, and we saw a little while ago the early testing of spacesuits. So you don't need Neil Armstrong in a vacuum chamber. Why? Or anybody like that. You don't need to do that.
That sounds fun, because that's kind of right there with my argument, is that the astronaut spacesuits themselves don't work in a vacuum chamber.
They do, because they were tested in a vacuum chamber. They all were. What? They all were tested in a vacuum chamber. They stemmed from the Gemini program when they made spacesuits. Okay, with the Mercury program, they didn't actually come out of their capsules, so they didn't need a spacesuit, just a flight suit. Okay, but the Gemini program they did, because it was the first spacewalk, the first EVA. So yeah, they were tested in vacuum chambers. And so were the later Apollo spacesuits. Farnsborough, I'm beginning to agree with you. Yeah, I think he is a moron, quite honestly. he's not even listening half the time anyway. So yeah, I'm gonna review my opinion of Kyle. Kyle, you're an idiot. Sorry, but you're an idiot. You might be a nice guy, but you're still an idiot.
So I'd be
Yes,
very
this
interested.
looks like footage from Neil Armstrong practicing in a vacuum chamber. Yes, I believe so.
On screen. Let's
This
do
is
it.
a space power facility in a vacuum chamber built NASA 1969. And yeah, I think that's it.
On screen. Let's see it.
We saw one earlier on at the beginning. He played it in his own video. That was testing a spacesuit. The early designation of spacesuits. And I know somebody, like I said, I've met somebody who involved in that. You've already seen it. I don't understand why TJump's even entertaining this idea that he wants to see what he's already seen. Kyle has already seen it in his own first point presentation. Those of you who weren't here, Kyle did and his 10-minute presentation at the start was part of a guy testing a spacesuit that sprung a leak. And he collapsed, and they had to go in and rescue him, and so forth. And it was there. It's already happened. He's seen it in his own video. So what's he after? What? That was a vacuum chamber. But I think, as I said earlier on, right at the beginning, I think he was confused as to like a pressure chamber and a vacuum chamber. The guy was in a vacuum chamber.
Do this again. Share screen. I'll have to share.
That's a vacuum chamber?
Yes, this is a vacuum chamber.
Yeah, he wants to see the camera being tested. Yeah.
Okay, looking for Neil Armstrong in the vacuum chamber.
Well, Neil Armstrong shows up over here. This is him putting on the suit. He's putting on the suit.
But it doesn't have to be Neil Armstrong.
That's Neil Armstrong. That guy right there in the middle.
Yeah.
This is the suit.
So we're kind of waiting for him in the vacuum chamber.
There's the vacuum chamber. See, that's the big door for the vacuum chamber.
Yeah, it's not going to work. You didn't have his helmet on that whole time?
Well, if the door's open, then it's not pressurized. And you do know how a vacuum chamber works, right? You have to like close the door first.
Yeah.
Oh my, come on! That is a dumb thing to say. You not have his helmet on? Well, no, because the door wasn't closed and it wasn't pressurized. Or depressurized. You moron. Oh God, Kyle, please. I thought there might have been maybe a small chance that you might have had some intelligence, but you really are showing yourself to be dumb as a brick. You really are. Maybe you should have been actually on the top left awards as well, but I don't think he's nominated yet.
That's what I'm waiting for.
Oh, there's the pressure.
I can't even see that.
There he is. He's in the vacuum chamber right there in that little camera.
Where?
Right there. You see the TV screen? That's a picture of inside the vacuum chamber with Neil Armstrong in the vacuum chamber.
Is it?
Go close up. Yes, it is.
Oh, see, this is what gets me as well. That he wants evidence, he wants some video to show the video, and now he's just denying it all. It's typical of Flurfs, isn't it? They just constantly moving the goalposts. How do we know that's Neil Armstrong? It doesn't matter whether it's Neil Armstrong or Mahatma Gandhi in that vacuum chamber. It doesn't matter. It's the fact that it happened and and there's evidence of it. It could be anybody in that vacuum chamber testing the spacesuit. It doesn't matter who it is.
I can't see it.
There it is. There you go. Neil Armstrong in the vacuum chamber.
That's showing him on the TV, and
that's not a TV.
Oh God, that's showing
a camera looking down from above.
That's what you wanted, Kyle.
Chamber. That's the vacuum chamber.
Okay. That's from inside the vacuum chamber.
I'm going to bring this
to
an end.
It might be, or it could just be like a screen above the vacuum chamber and a camera looking through it.
I'd like to see him actually do some moving around a bit.
He is moving. What are you talking about? He's holding things.
Yeah. How do you even know that vacuum chamber is pressurized?
Oh, God.
Well, they showed the pressure.
Oh, because they had a meter that chose.
Oh, how do we know that's Neil Armstrong? How do we know he's moving? How do we know it's pressurized? Yeah, what does he want? What does he right? What we need to do is actually put him in front of a vacuum chamber and somebody to be testing the spacesuit. But like, you know, NASA's going to go out of the way and spend, I don't know, a lot of money proving something to him. Do you not? Does he honestly think that NASA's there to prove something to him? Holy moly! He's just denial at this for denial's sake, and I think Sal just pointed out there as well. Yeah, it's thousands worth of conspiracy. He's just in being contrarian. Of course he is. It's just denial for denial's sake now. He wanted to see evidence of it. He wanted to see a video. He's seen the video, and now it's just deny.
That you can't even see. Like we looked at the thing, but you couldn't see any numbers on it.
You can see the numbers on it. What are you talking about?
What numbers? All you just see is
60,
white.
55, 54. Or maybe it's because it's going through Zoom. I can see the numbers. It says 60 in the bottom right, 0 in the bottom left. It goes in increments of 5 around the edge.
I just see white.
Okay, that's probably just because of Zoom or something. But I can see the
give
numbers.
him the link and he have a look for himself.
It's on 35. It's 35, whatever metric they're using. I think it's PSI.
PSI. And how does that compare to with the vacuum of space? Like which one is a greater PSI?
Greater PSI? Clearly, PSI is in space is like 0 or something.
Oh, so there's no pressure like comparable. So,
well, so there's no PS like 0.000000000 something.
Like it takes a
yes,
lot of.
This goes to 0. This goes to 0. So yes, we did do tests down to close to space. Yes.
Okay, so what you're showing me right here is not comparable to space. It's like
this is it getting to the level where they get him into it. So it has to go down. Starts at a high number, goes to a low number, and gets to space conditions or close to space.
Okay, so we're not seeing him in space conditions. We're just going to watch.
Oh, God. He's already said at the beginning, right, that we can't produce the vacuum of space here on Earth. He said it himself. Okay, now he's sort of saying, oh, well, you can't produce space conditions here on Earth. Yes, we know that, but we can get very close to it. Enough that you'll be able to actually test the spacesuit, because the spacesuit, I've already said before previously, the spacesuit is just pressurized to 4.5 psi. So the pressure differential is 4.5 psi.
So we are seeing him in space conditions. This is the beginning of the video where it's going down.
Okay, well, where do we see the space conditions?
When we saw him moving around. Again, you can replicate this. We can rent a vacuum chamber. You can use a.
You can walk in. That's Mark Sargent.
Yeah, absolutely. You can rent a vacuum chamber. Yeah, you can do it yourself, and had absolutely nothing to do with NASA.
Big game changer right there. He's like, if you want to prove it to me, I want to be in a vacuum chamber. That's Mark
yes,
Sargent's
you can. You can rent a vacuum chamber. Yes.
That you can walk into with 2 astronaut suits, and yeah, he's like,
astronaut suits are going to be a little more expensive to rent, but they are rentable, I imagine.
That would be interesting. Yeah, that's Mark Sargent's #1 thing.
All right, I think you'll leave it there because it's gone an hour and a half, and I think my people that I live with here, my partner and my stepson, will be coming home shortly, so we'll leave it there. So thank you very much, everybody, for coming and for participating and putting their 2 pennies worth in. Like Alan Evans, he's very good at he knows what he's talking about. Southern Sal's got a channel. Go and check it out. Really great, and go and show him some love and subscribe as well. Got Jens Gork. Thank you very much again. Yeah, absolutely. Goalpost moved again. Quite correct. Farmer's Boy, thank you very much for coming. He's one of my members. Thank you very much. Who else do we have? Let's have a look. George Haynes, thank you very much. Thurston 2, thank you very much for coming. Really appreciate it. Who else did we have? George mentioned, and anybody else? Jen Shortgill, we mentioned you. Anybody else that's not watching, not chatted, you're very, very welcome. Thank you very much for coming to view the channel. Really, really appreciate it. Again, there is a link at the top of the chat with a PayPal link. If you've really enjoyed the show and you think it's worth something, any donation would be much appreciated. The very same link is also in the description of this live stream. So yeah, any donations will be gratefully received. And if you're new to the channel, again, please hit the subscribe button. Also, click on the bell icon, select all, and then you'll be notified when I go live next time, or when I upload some more videos. So yeah, really appreciate it if you can do that. That'd be fantastic. And then maybe I'd like to see you again in the future. So going forward, I'd like to add a few more things to this live show. So if you've got any suggestions at all, at the moment, what I'm thinking of is perhaps like some stupid meme, maybe if I've picked up that we can pick on and pick apart and laugh at or whatever. Also, maybe like a quick little bit of news, what's going on my world, as I call it, in the world of space travel and rockets, and I don't know, even a bit of astronomy and stuff like that. We can pick up on some news and stuff like that, see what's going on, and then also maybe a video. But if you've got any suggestions, I'm open to any of them. And if you've got any criticisms at all, anything I can make things better, where the production perhaps is not quite good enough or that could be improved, then please let me know. Really, really appreciate it. Any help would be granted at all. So, and again, going forward, this is going to be every Saturday around about the same time, give or take. Might vary it half an hour here and there for convenience, but give or take should be the same. So if I say something wrong or you think I'm wrong about something, I'm very open to learn always. I might not always get what you're talking about necessarily, as Alan will testify to. I don't always understand what he's talking about when it comes to photography, always. But I'm always open to criticism and to learn from other people that are in better knowledge than I have. So really, it only leaves me to say thank you very much for coming. Until next week, take care.